have begged for this. I've made it my mission in life to get more help for Crystal's case. So to see it actually happening was very overwhelming. I believe 100% in my heart that Brooks Houck is responsible, and that's my opinion. For me to see him walking around town, I just think in the back of my mind, it's not going to be forever. So try not to focus on the now and try to focus toward what's going to happen one day.
And that day is here as two men were sentenced in connection to the death of Crystal Rogers over a decade after her disappearance. Joseph Lawson and Crystal's then-boyfriend Brooks Houck were back in court on Wednesday. Lawson sentenced to 25 years for conspiracy and tampering with evidence. Houck, he will spend the rest of his life behind bars. Those closest to the 35-year-old mother delivered victim impact statements ahead of the sentencing, including this one from Mom.
I pray that one day you will grow a heart and have the decency to tell me where my daughter is so we can have a proper burial for her. You owe that much to your own son, and my daughter deserves that. Her kids deserve that. I do hope that every day you're incarcerated, you see my daughter's beautiful face, and you think about the evil you have committed and how many lives you have destroyed. I pray this haunts you for the rest of your miserable life.
Great words there from Mother. Obviously, Crystal's remains still have not been found. Will we ever know what happened to Crystal? Everything, will we know? Michael J. Brown is still with us. John Phillips joining our conversation this morning. John, good morning to you. Your thoughts on they want Crystal's remains. We see that a lot. Very rare you actually see someone step up and provide that information. Your thoughts on whether or not Mom will ever find out where her daughter is?
10 years. This family's been waiting 10 years to have a decent burial of their daughter. And we see this time and time again, particularly on my victims' cases, where they give these compelling statements on their child's murder, their parents' murder. And it falls on deaf ears. First of all, there's going to be, challenges to the criminal process, the sentence, and then you get time, right? So this Brooks has a life in prison, and you'd hope there'd be an ounce of remorse to be able to give this critical information, but almost never does it occur.
You agree with that, Michael?
I always like to agree with my good friend John, but here's what I'm going to say in this particular case. This guy has no remorse. He has no regret. I think that's clear. And John's spot on in terms of the criminal process and the appellate process, and it's going to take some time. But at some point in time, I think this guy Houck is going to be sitting in a jail cell, and he's going to want to redeem himself, although I don't think it's possible, but he's going to want to give that information up. And it may not be for 5 years. It may not be for 20 years, but there'll come a point in time when I think he will reveal where the remains are and give the family some closure.
Houck also facing a civil suit in this case, and he's got some cash. He's a wealthy individual, which, it is what it is. He's going to be spending the rest of his life in a prison, so spending that money is going to be a bit of a problem for him. Let's talk about the next step in this, because it's sort of twofold, and we heard this play out in the sentencing hearing, because Dad, who's looking for Crystal, ended up dying. He was murdered, and that has still not been resolved. And his death was a focus of Wednesday's sentencing as well. Take a listen.
We all know you and your family had something to do with my dad's murder. A coward who couldn't even face him. All because he wanted answers to bring his daughter home.
Brooks, during one of your phone calls, you said, "They've taken my life from me." Wrong. The only lives that have been taken are Crystal and my brother Tommy Ballard's life.
Tommy Ballard spent over a year searching for answers connected to Crystal's disappearance, but just 18 months after he started that search, he was shot and killed in November of 2016. His killer remains unknown, but his family, they're pretty convinced it's Mr. Houck.
As far as my brother Tommy Ballard, I'll never take back what I say every time. I think that they're responsible for the murder of my brother. I think Brooks is involved, Nick's involved, his mother's involved. I think they're all involved, and that's the way I feel. That's my opinion, and I'm sticking with it.
Well, that's the question this morning. John Phillips, do you think that there will be justice for Tommy Ballard here?
You know, I haven't looked at the wrongful death suit and seen how wide of a net they cast, but certainly once Brooks loses his right to say, I'm not going to answer that question on, because of the Fifth Amendment, and they have to get into depositions and discovery, there is going to be a window of opportunity, with good attorneys that ask the right questions. I don't know. There's certainly no statute of limitations, for murder in nearly all jurisdictions, but it's tough. He seemed to be getting close to the murder and was killed for it. And, now can the civil suit unravel? Can investigators unravel after all these years? Those are the questions that remain.
Michael, that's a good thought. Sometimes civil suits do unearth some information that results then ultimately in a criminal prosecution. Kind of rare, but what's your take?
They could, but what the problem here is, as John pointed out, there's no statute of limitations, generally speaking, across our country for murder charges. So if that's the case, when he's deposed on these wrongful death actions, he's going to assert the Fifth Amendment. So you're really not going to get any probative information from him. It's been a long time, and I don't think the authorities have stopped pursuing this. And I think they all know it's him, but they don't have the proof to charge him yet. I think they'll continue. You never know if there'll be jailhouse informants, recorded calls from the facility. They're going to need something more, because if they had it, they would have charged him. And listen, they'll keep pursuing it, and at some point, the dime may drop, and they'll charge him.
John, some people say, well, the guy's he's serving a life sentence. What's the point? Well, you sent him away, and everybody thinks he was responsible. Why waste resources on trying to pin another murder on him? What do you say to that?
When I represented Jordan Davis's family when he was shot and killed in 2012, there was a trial that got Michael Dunn convicted and basically facing a life sentence for attempted murder of 3 other people. And the prosecutor kept going to get justice for Jordan Davis. This is about justice for individual victims. And you can't say, well, we're close enough to justice, justice, close enough. And here, going back to the civil suit, there's nothing better in my life when I take good depositions and I send them over to prosecutors and say, here, go get them, cowboy, cowgirl. It's fun. And then in the wrongful death case, in most jurisdictions, you get to use the election of the Fifth Amendment. And here again, it's selective, right? He can't use it related to questions related to Brooks, but can the father. But there's an inference that can happen in a wrongful death case that can lead you down the path that, again, prosecutors and investigators start taking notice.
Michael, in your experience, how satisfying is this process, the sentencing of an individual for, in this case, Crystal Rogers' family? They went through this. They were able to look him in the eye and speak their mind, especially mom. How much of a hurdle is this in the process, which never goes away, but how important is this?
It's huge, Ted. It's a big deal. When they get to sit there in court, he's convicted, they get to pour out their heart, pour out their emotions, get it out of their system. It's cathartic, and it's really important for the healing of these family members. Unfortunately, in this particular case, the one outstanding issue, which is really, really disheartening, is the fact that they don't have the body, they don't have the remains. And that's really problematic, because as much as the sentencing gives them that relief, so to speak, of emotions, until they find the body and the remains, it's still going to be open, and it's still unfortunately going to be torturing these family members inside until that happens.
Yeah, good point. Every morning now they'll wake up with that unanswered question still looming, and it will be torturous for them unless Brooks Hauk steps up and tells them where the body is. Michael J. Brown, thank you as always for your expertise. John's going to stick around. Still ahead on opening statements.